Before we start today's episode, a quick announcement from supporters of this show, Go Venture. Did you know that personal financial literacy is increasingly being taught in schools and universities? Well, today they have a special offer and it's just for teachers. It's a free online course that will help you gain the wisdom to make better money decisions in your own life. And the course will also prepare you to teach personal financial literacy to students. The course allows you to learn at your own pace, and it uses experiential learning to keep you engaged from start to finish. Expand your career opportunities and gain the confidence to be a teaching superhero. Enroll in this course today. It's only free to teachers for a limited time. Go to teachingsuperhero.com. That's teachingsuperhero.com. Brought to you by MediaSpark, the makers of Go Venture. Now, here's today's episode of Inspiring Teachers. Hey everybody, Danny Hogger here. Hope you're having an outstanding week. Thank you so much for checking out our show. Are you looking for new and engaging ways to get your students up and moving in the classroom? Get out of the sit and get rut of teaching by checking out ampeduplearning.com, a two-teacher-owned and operated company in Texas that is looking to gamify teaching with creative new activities for the classroom. From their FREC resources and escape rooms for social studies and science to speed squares and task cards for math and English, they have tons of teacher-created resources. So many good things up there. And don't forget to check out their apparel designed specifically for teachers. Look good and support teachers. That's something I can get behind. Use code HOGGERHISTORY10 to save 10% on all items and follow them on social media at Amped Up Learning for their monthly giveaways of Amazon gift cards, lessons, and apparel. Man, supporting teachers while also supporting teachers, that sounds like something we could really get behind. And don't forget to use that code HOGGERHISTORY10 to save 10% on all items at ampeduplearning.com. What a great way to start. Now let's move on to the show. Thank you so much for supporting Inspiring Teachers.
Welcome to Inspiring Teachers, a show bringing you classroom tips, motivation, and stories from successful educators. Join Tavis Bean and Danny Hogger as they explore the why of teaching.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of Inspiring Teachers live at the Good Teacher Conference North 2020. We're really excited to be here today, and we're in San Jose, California. In this hour, we're going to address some aspects of meaningful instruction, equitable teaching, navigating IEPs, special education, behavior management, technology, working with colleagues, and how to be effective teachers. In Hour 3, we will be discussing tips and guidance for maintaining good teaching and projects. I'm messing up there.
Hey,
your teaching
great.
Toolkit all year long.
I'm going to give you positive reinforcement, so
Thank
you're doing
you.
great.
And coming up with us is Mike Patterson. He is a CTA board member for the Lake Tahoe area, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot of amazing, wonderful, engaging things from him.
Yeah. Hey, Mike. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about this initiative that you've been working so heavily for teachers to be aware of in California. And for those who might not have known about it, the Schools and Communities First initiative is pretty important to keeping funding in schools. Can you tell us more about it, please?
Oh, I would love to. So it's really embarrassing. The state of California is the richest state in the nation. In fact, if we were our own nation, we'd be the 5th richest economy in the world. Wow. And we fund our public schools at the bottom third. And the big reason for that is corporations in California have found tax loopholes for property tax, and they haven't been paying their fair share of property taxes since the 70s. And so if you look at property tax revenue in California, back in the 70s, the corporations paid the bulk of the property taxes that went into the state budget that funded our schools and our community services. Now corporations manage to pay 28% of the property tax revenue in the state of California, and homeowners pay 72% of the property tax revenue in the state of California. Therefore, we're in the bottom third because corporations aren't paying their fair share. Right. So what we're attempting to do is to raise about $12 billion annually for schools and community services. And the way we're going to do that is the 12% of the corporations in California that aren't paying their fair share of taxes, we want them to pay what they should be paying and remove the loopholes that they have been using not to pay their fair share.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's basically the issue that we're facing and the solution that we have to help our students by and our communities as well.
And it also levels that playing field for businesses that have been paying and have been doing their share, right? That for the companies that are getting these loopholes to equalize it. In class, we look at current events, and we read yesterday that Amazon, for their $13 billion of profit in 2019, paid an effective tax rate of 1.2%. And I said, ask your parents what percentage they pay when you get home today, because mine's between 20 and 25, and that education is reliant on those funds. And our schools, when we look around, I feel fortunate that our school had been planning for quite a while and is bringing a culinary arts program. But many of my students talking about how our theater department in our high school is one of the top in the state, but our theater is one of the smallest in Northern California. And they're putting on 15 shows to try to satisfy the audience. And what variety of things that those funds might bring to these different schools. And Tavis was just talking about how there's fewer and fewer woodshop programs, and funding is stretched so thin at a lot of our schools. So there is an immense amount of potential good that might come from this initiative gaining ground. What are some things that you have to say about how teachers can become aware or gain ground for that to happen and take place? What do you want to see happen next?
Well, that's a really a great question. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get the signatures to qualify schools and community first through the ballot, and we're actively doing that. This week, we hit 1 million signatures, which is a big landmark for us. That's the great news. The concerning part is we really want to have 1.6 million signatures.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we have 4 weeks to get 600,000 signatures. So we're going to be working hard to make sure we have that amount, so we have a cushion, because not every signature you get is a valid signature.
Right.
But I've been fortunate enough to be teaching in California for 32 years, and I've seen so many great programs go away because school districts have had to make decisions based upon funding.
Yeah.
So we've seen, career technical education programs go away. Mm-hmm. We've seen, art and music programs just at the bare minimum level that they have to be to satisfy graduation requirements. We've seen larger class sizes. We've seen our schools, not maintained at the level they should be. And so when students walk in the front door, they're not walking into a freshly painted, clean school, because districts have to make tough decisions because they don't have the money. And so all of those things, won't be a perfect world, but, we'll move up so school districts and the local communities can make decisions to return programs, return elective programs, lower class sizes, put nurses and counselors and psychologists back in our schools that our students need, and just be able to address a whole myriad of issues that our schools face. And again, all be local control. The local school districts, through the LCAP process, will have the ability to make the decisions to what the students in the local school districts need.
Right. And that really speaks to something that we've been going through in my district right now, because we've been trying to renegotiate our contract for over a year, and there was concerns about having to strike. And what it really came down to when CTA came in and looked at the books is the district just didn't have it. It's not there. We want smaller class sizes. But they want these things too. They want more programs. They really just don't have the resources. So it's wonderful to see somebody working at that next level to try to get those resources for the district, so then it can trickle down to our students. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and is there a website that people can go if they're listening to this podcast and they're at home and they're maybe driving and want to look up more information?
Yeah, there's a couple of great resources. The Schools and Community First website, schoolsandcommunity.org, is a great resource. And if you're a CTA member, please go to the CTA website. There's a lot of information at cta.org, mm-hmm. and then there's also links to other websites. And the information is there. And when people really look at what's going on, they I have very few people, when I put a petition in front of them and answered their questions, weren't willing to sign it to get this on the ballot so we can make this happen.
Most people are surprised to find out that this is the state of things in education.
I mean, a lot of things we teach, if you don't know the problem, we can't address the solution. And so I'm grateful that you're taking so much effort to collect these signatures and move this thing forward. So thank you so much, Mike, for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike Patterson. And from one guest, we move along right to another. And Alyson Hoberecht is going to be joining us to talk about classroom management and mindfulness and many other wonderful things.
This is a subject dear to my heart as well. So.
Yeah, so this is really great stuff. And again, this is Danny Hogger and Tavis Beam. We are Inspiring Teachers. You can find us online on YouTube, on podbean.com, on iTunes and Spotify, interviewing guests weekly and talking about teaching. So Alyson, thank you so much for joining us and being here with us today.